The right, therefore, of conquest I define thus: a necessary, lawful, but unhappy power which leaves the conqueror under heavy obligation of repairing the injuries done to humanity. The conquered people are in a melancholy situation. They neither enjoy the advantages of a republic nor those of a monarchy. When a republic, therefore, keeps another nation in subjection, it should endeavor to repair the inconveniences arising from the nature of its situation by giving it good laws both for the political and civil government of the people. Welcome back. This is The Average, and I'm continuing my surface level summary of Charles Montesquieu, The Spirit of Laws, published in 1748, a little under 20 years before the American Revolution. So let's briefly dive into Montesquieu's thoughts on war. I left out a lot, so I would encourage you to read his book. Overall, it seems Montesquieu is anti-war, but if it does happen, certain conditions must be met or avoided, and how the fate of the conquered people ought to be handled. So let's dive in. The life of governments is like that of man. The latter has a right to kill in case of natural defense. The former have a right to wage war for their own preservation. In the case of natural defense, I have a right to kill because my life is in respect to me what the life of my antagonist is to him. In the same manner, a state wages war because its preservation is like that of any other being. With individuals, the right of natural defense does not imply a necessity of attacking. Instead of attacking, they need only have recourse to proper tribunals. They cannot therefore exercise this right of defense, but in sudden cases, when immediate death would be the consequence of waiting for the assistance of the law. And with that, I do believe Charles is pro-self-defense and pro-Second Amendment. But with states, the right of natural defense carries along with it sometimes the necessity of attacking, as for instance, when one nation sees that a continuance of peace will enable another to destroy her, and that to attack that nation instantly is the only way to prevent her own destruction. Thence it follows that petty states have often a right to declare war than great ones, because they are often in this case of being afraid of destruction. The right of war, therefore, is derived from necessity and strict justice. If those who direct the conscience of councils of princes do not abide by this maxim, the consequence is dreadful. When they proceed on arbitrary principles of glory, convenience, and utility, torrents of blood must overspread the earth. But above all, let them not plead such an idle pretext as the glory of the prince. His glory is nothing but pride. It is a passion, and not a legitimate right. It is true the fame of his power might increase the strength of his government, but it might be equally increased by a reputation of his justice. So many important points to this. A nation may attack another if it's convinced it is in imminent danger, which I don't like the implications. I also like how he stresses the importance that a war must not be about pride, glory, or passion of a prince. For the right of war comes that of conquest, I don't like that, which is the consequence of that right and ought therefore follow its spirit. Conquest is an acquisition and carries with it the spirit of preservation and use, not of destruction. The inhabitants of a conquered country are treated by the conqueror in one of the four following ways. Either he continues to rule them according to their own laws and assumes to himself only the exercise of the political and civil government, or he gives them new political and civil government. Or he destroys and disperses the society, or in fine, he exterminates the people. So if I am conquered, I will be placated by being ruled the same, or my government will be replaced, or I'll be destroyed, and vice versa. Charles states that these are the only bleak outcomes. From the right of killing in the case of conquest, politicians have drawn that of reducing to slavery, a consequence as ill-grounded as the principle. There is no such thing as a right of reducing people to slavery, save when it becomes necessary for the preservation of the conquest. I agree with the first part, but definitely not the second part. Preservation and not servitude is the end of conquest, though servitude may happen sometimes to be a necessary means of preservation. So Charles is arguing that war should be about preservation and not reducing a conquered people to slaves. Charles further wrote, "It is not sufficient in those conquests to let the conquered nation enjoy their own laws. It is perhaps more necessary to leave them also their manners, because people in general have a stronger attachment to these than to their laws. It is too much for a nation to be obliged to bear not only with the pride of conquerors, but with their incontinence and indiscretion. These are, without doubt, most grievous and intolerable, as they are the source of infinite outrages." Again, the author encourages that local manners, and I assume also traditions, are left alone. If you conquer, invade, or occupy another nation, it would be wise to leave the locals alone as much as possible. And on the flip side, if you are a conquered nation, then the occupier may strategically leave alone the local manners in an effort to placate the population. This was a very thought-provoking section by Charles, and the silver line that I really enjoyed was his encouragement that the conquering party is obligated to provide an advantage or repair the damage done to the conquered party. So here's a bonus quote from Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince that I felt needed to be included because it fits well with Charles' viewpoint on natural defense. There never was a new prince who has disarmed his subjects. Rather, when he has found them disarmed, he has always armed them, because by arming them, those arms become yours. Those men who were distrusted become faithful, and those who are faithful are kept so, and your subjects become your adherents. But when you disarm them, you at once offend them by showing that you distrust them, either for cowardice or for want of loyalty, and either of these opinions breeds hatred against you. I really value this quote because it ties being pro-gun with this big concept of trust. I'm D Average, and thank you for listening.